Hi, my name is Tara Sorensen. I am a mom, an Amazon Prime customer, and the head of kids programming for Amazon Studios. I want to thank the guys at JAM for inviting me to speak at Dingle. This is a stunningly gorgeous venue, and I really feel lucky to be here in this moment right now. John asked me to speak about how I got here, and while I think my journey has been really quite simple, perhaps there are key moments that you might be able to use to inform your career and your journey. If there's one thing you can take away from my experience, it really comes down to passion. I go to work every day, and I think about playing in the most incredible playground that one could ever imagine. I get to play with wonderful creators, beautiful artists, and passionate storytellers every single day. So let me start at the beginning. As a student at university, I began my studies as a business major. It wasn't something I was passionate about, but it was something that my relatives encouraged me to pursue. When I quickly realized that economics was slightly less interesting than watching paint dry, I decided to pursue a major in something that I loved. It was reading. Every semester when I roamed the aisles of the university bookstore, I would find myself inevitably in the children's book section, which is not where I should have been, but I was. I would buy classic pieces of kids' literature as if they were masterpieces to have and hold. Shel Silverstein, Lewis Carroll, Tolkien. I was obsessed with these stories, and in that moment, it didn't quite make sense to me. At one point, my senior year, I even compared a Joyce Carol Oates story to Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Upon graduation, everyone assumed as an English major, I would become a teacher. Oops. I'm going to do the David Letterman thing where I throw these pages. I would become a teacher, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I decided to set my career off with considering things that I loved, things that I was passionate about. At that moment in time, they included Coca-Cola, which was a staple of my diet at school, Oprah Winfrey, don't ask me why, and Sesame Street. A fondness for their programming philosophy, their impact on children, and the immediate smile it put on my face when recalling one of their many skits. One of my favorites was Manamana, and you can tell me what yours is at the end of the day. Since Sesame Street was only in production 6 months out of the year, I was offered a job in their publishing group. I began working as an editorial assistant at Children's Television Workshop on Kid City and Ghostwriter magazine, two magazines that skew to a 6 to 11 audience. I would review products and toys. I was actually reviewing at that point VHS tapes of Jim Henson's Dog City and other animated fare. And from that moment on, I realized that kids' entertainment is where I wanted to be, and I continued my trajectory in children's media. A harsh summer and an even more brutal winter in New York City, I came back to Southern California and was publishing not much of a West Coast presence. I pursued a career in kids television. I worked mostly on the independent side of the business for most of my career, Nelvana, Sony, National Geographic, always as a seller, not as a buyer. And I began getting really frustrated with the paradigm shift. Vertical integration made it near impossible to get a show sold without assembling a patchwork quilt of financing, which could often take 3, 4, 5 years. As an alternative, I tried pitching networks on something more experimental, trying to launch digital shorts online that they could use as a test ground for developing a bigger IP. But that wasn't their business, they kept telling me. They were focused on linear, not the growth of a tiny little sprout online. I remember sitting in a conference much like this, and one of my idols said on a panel, for those of you who think the linear television is dying, you don't know what you're talking about. And in that moment, I looked around and I thought, what the hell am I missing? It was really hard to get a show sold, and so I just felt like something was broken. A year later, Amazon called, and my worlds collided. I was a kids' television executive, I was a Prime customer, and now, at this point in my life, I was a mom. I can't tell you with all certainty that I knew, Amazon trajectory would accelerate from 0 to 60 faster than a Porsche, But I did know it was a transition to digital, and it would enable me to build something from the ground up. It was a welcome change, even if it didn't work out. I encourage you to take them, risks, lots and lots of risks. I started with preschool programming, knowing it would be moms and dads making the initial discovery about programs and then spoon-feeding it to their children. As such, educational content was a must. I wanted to ensure that we were earning trust with our customers, making them feel good about the screen time that they put their young children in front of. The challenge, though, would be to stand out and to innovate. As you know, there's a lot of great content in the world, and there continues to be great creators, but how could Amazon position themselves uniquely in this marketplace? Simultaneously, as a mom, I was struggling with my own kids entering schools. Arts, music, playtime were being cut out of schools in favor of teach-to-test philosophy. At a kindergarten school orientation, my son's teacher began going over all of her expectations for the year and her philosophies in general. One of them included teaching students how to draw and color from left to right, just like reading, she justified. It was the most mind-boggling moment for me. Art's a form of self-expression. Why would you limit them? Why would you put them in this proverbial box? It was clear to me that they began taking the fun out of kindergarten, and kindergarten would be more structured like work. I wanted to make certain that programs that were being pulled out of schools were highlighted and celebrated in our curriculum because I knew it was an important way for us to think and see the world. It's been validated in the work of Sir Ken Robinson, Daniel Pink, Tony Wagner, Mitchell Resnick, Scott Osterweald. You get it, the list goes on and on and on. At that point, our kids' programming mission was set in motion to create lifelong learners by giving kids the tools to be curious, to be creative, to be playful, to be resilient, so that this way of thinking and acting and being is the way we can experience life, even as adults, and even as people going into the workforce for the first time. All of that thinking went into our first round of programs, and I'm going to show you a piece that we produced over a year and a half ago when we launched our first shows in the summer of 2014, which really encapsulates our philosophy.
Imagine a place where everything you saw empowered you, where anything was possible through the power of play.
What do you want to play today?
Playing makes every moment a new lesson.
Look what I created! It's my masterpiece.
Every experience, another teacher.
Hit it.
And the playing we do shapes the world we see. Original programming for kids from Amazon. Designed to inspire a lifetime of learning. Because today's creativity will build tomorrow's reality.
Yeah!
Only on Amazon Prime Instant Video.
Go be amazing!
This just made me realize that a lot of you don't see our programs because we're in Ireland right now, but hopefully one day you will. So if that wasn't exciting enough for me to lead this charge, there were other things, other game changers that Amazon could consider as we entered this space. And one of them was the idea of multiple devices. Ever since tablets were introduced, I saw my own kids playing and interacting with multiple devices. They were really screen agnostic. There was no longer a loyalty to one broadcaster. They would search out shows, and if they couldn't find the one they wanted, they would simply find something else. They watched when they wanted to watch and where they wanted to watch. They were in the driver's seat with complete control. And as you can imagine, this is really empowering for a kid, and for anyone. A couple of years ago, I was on a family vacation as a place I will refer to as Mouseland. At the end of a long day of amusement park rides, my daughter and I were watching TV in the Mouseland Hotel, and she asked me to rewind a program on television. And I looked at her dumbfounded. I can't rewind this TV. She could not fathom that concept. What do you mean you can't rewind the TV? She looked at me like I had 5 heads. So I handed her a tablet. Another difference for us at Amazon Studios is that, traditional broadcasters might think about programming in a block or a lineup. One program naturally needs to lead into the other. They need to fit together like perfect puzzle pieces. I think about programming in a matrix. It enables me to think about shows as individual pieces of art. One does not have to lead into another. They become like movies in that respect, fully contained. Each is its own experience, and each has its own point of view. Traditional broadcasters have been, long established with brands that are 30, 40, 50 plus years old, but Amazon is new in this space. We don't have a TV brand. This freedom enables me to take risks, to break rules, to think completely outside of the box. And while I might not have an established brand, there is a guiding light for me. It's really our customer. It's our most valuable asset at Amazon Studios, something that someone we always consider in the room. Their comments give us instantaneous feedback. As an organization obsessed with customers, Amazon Studios' mission was always clear: to create great programming that our customers love. Reviews like this are very much part of our content evaluation process, and I encourage you to always think about your audience. Amazon Studios' development process differs from most in that we produce broadcast quality pilots that go up online for 30 days for everyone to see. We like to refer to it as the world's largest focus group. We encourage customers to give us written feedback. Alongside their feedback, we're also watching how they watch programs. All this information is utilized and helps inform our series greenlight decisions. Our customers are vested in the programs then that are greenlit to series. This feedback tool is not just helpful for Amazon Studios, but I think it's really helpful to the writers, the producers, the artists that we work with. To some degree, I'm sure it's helpful for other broadcast networks to see what types of reactions, parents and kids are giving us alike. These customers are available to them in real time, and if you're having a tough day, it's always nice to go online and read a 5-star rating and see the impact that your show has had on a child or a parent. This type of feedback actually on one of our pilots helped guide the road for us in series production, when one of the customers said they really valued a live action segment that was tacked on somewhat as an afterthought at the end of the show. It gave parents and kids step-by-step instructions on different crafts that were featured, so in series we actually elongated it. They also told us that, our main character could afford a nicer Creative Spark, which was his vehicle, so already got an upgrade, a luxury spaceship. As we consider this unique aspect of our process, there were other streaming behaviors that we could embrace. There's also what we like to refer to as the view and do aspect. So we're not just thinking about the screen, but we're thinking about the larger experience. We do not tie kids to a linear broadcast. We can encourage them to go outside of the screen to deepen and enrich the learning. It creates a really great engagement flywheel. For preschool content, I'm not just thinking about one screen or even 5. I'm thinking about extending that learning to all parts of their lives. Amazon customers have the ability to pause, to play, to rewind, to repeat. Active messages at the end of every show encourage this behavior, and we can see the different activities that we can encourage on this slide. I'm also just not thinking about the kid viewer, but I'm really considering the family experience. Every member of the household knows or interacts with Amazon in some way. For some people, they get several boxes a day that arrive on their doorstep. It's as if Christmas doesn't come once a year. A few years ago, when my son found out I was going to Amazon, he was convinced this could be his in to get hard-to-get Skylanders. We are the everything store, but it was such a poignant moment for me that I wanted to wrap that into all of our thinking. I wanted families to feel supported on and off air. So even though co-viewing is hard to obtain, it's a reach goal for me. Ideally, we're bringing families together around the screen, encouraging interaction, activity around the dinner table, in the car, on weekends, you name it. On Tumble Leaf, we heard from customers how much they love the experience of creating their own finding place at home for their kids to enjoy, keeping them at grandparents' house for a sleepover. One dad told us that on Creative Galaxy, he really loved the show, but not before his 7 a.m. coffee when his child was tugging on his shirt to make a piñata at 6:45 a.m. And we see that it's working. So, as I mentioned, we do get to see wonderful creative feedback from our customers. Here are just a couple of quotes from some of our shows. And one of my favorites is from an avid Androids viewer, and I'll read it to you now. As a parent, I'm a huge fan of the show. My 4, almost 5-year-old absolutely adores it, so much so that her obsession with Star Wars has been supplanted. I know this because she very solemnly told my wife and I that she wants an Androids birthday party instead of a Star Wars party. As of now, the coolness ranking in our household is as follows. 1, Anne from Androids. 2, Darth Vader. 3, Elsa from Frozen. When I asked my daughter why she thinks Anne is so cool, she simply said, because she makes robots out of junk. I mean, how can you argue with that? At the end of our preschool programs, we include a call to our audience to put the curriculum into motion. And since this is an animation festival, I thought we would be able to show you some clips. So the first one is from Tumble Leaf. It's a show about a little blue fox who lives in this wonderful world called Tumble Leaf, and he makes scientific discoveries through his natural play. Can we play that?
Look, we did it! A rainbow! Woo-hoo! Wait, why no rainbow that time? Sparkling spaghetti. There it is. Shimmer and shout, I figured it out. You don't just need mist to make a rainbow, and you don't just need sunshine. You need mist and sunshine. Whoa! Well, Stick, we got a rainbow.
We received a lot of, thank you. We received a lot of wonderful press, customer feedback, industry recognition in the form of multiple Emmys. This was actually the first show that we launched as Amazon Studios Kids Programming, so it was pretty meaningful that not only were we getting recognition from our customers first and foremost, but that the industry was taking notice. I really firmly believe that the reason this show sort of stood out, aside from the curriculum approach, which I mentioned, is that it looked and felt different than any other preschool show that had been broadcast in the U.S. Stop motion was sort of frowned upon. It hadn't been done, I feel like, since Thomas effectively, and a lot of executives believe that stop motion wouldn't connect with preschoolers. As I talked earlier about taking risks, this was one of them, and it's really sort of paid off for us. So again, underline, take risks. Another preschool series that we currently have in production and is being produced by the wonderful Brown Bag Films folks is the Stinky and Dirty series. And what preschooler doesn't love to get stinky and dirty? In this clip, their point of view is clear. Our characters consider all the possibilities and don't limit themselves to a box. Can we show the Stinky and Dirty?
Here comes Sticky the tow truck, towing away the poor broken down car on the side of the road. Next, look out! Uh-oh, it's blocking the road. Let's push it out of here. Moving. What else can we do? What if we threw melons at it?
have to pull a giant boulder out of the road. I feel like I'm not even pulling it anymore. Uh-oh, the bridge! We're gonna hit those cars! What do we do? What if? Quick, throw me those plants! It's gonna work! Yeah! Now, Dirty, my friend, let's roll.
Ha, let's roll. Good one, Stinky.
I should have set that up. There was a pilot, so the brown bag folks are probably like, you showed the pilot? But anyway, we sort of take pretty aggressive timelines to produce all of our pilots, and Brown Bag Films really sort of stepped up to the challenge in producing that in a very short period of time. Music actually is sort of woven throughout the series, which you didn't get to see there, but it really sort of fuels the stories. I think it will connect with parents in a different way. And as we know, kids love music. So that series launches later this summer, and we believe, like Tumble Leaf, it will break new ground in the way that it tells stories and the way that it connects with kids and families. I'm going to switch gears here slightly. The next clip I'm going to show you is actually from one of our live action shows, Gordimer Gibbon's Life on Normal Street. And as you've gleaned from what I've said earlier, Amazon really prides themselves on knowing their customers, thinking big, taking risks. If you've ever been in a room with me for a pitch, you'll hear me talk a lot about being relevant to our audience. And in 6 to 11, while I'm not looking to actively engage them in learning, we do infuse all of our protagonists with characteristics of lifelong creative learners. These characters become role models, they are current, they are real. Relationships with friends and families are authentic. We never go for an easy laugh. Friday night family viewing in the US has sort of unfortunately gone away, and so my aim with this show was really to create a show that parents and kids of all ages could sit in front of the screen together and enjoy one show. It was the first 6 to 11 pilot that was greenlit to series, and a sort of success story for us is that it was discovered in our online system. A preschool teacher by the name of David Anaxagoras, who had received his MFA in screenwriting from UCLA probably 15 years earlier, he had never sold a pitch, and he was about to give up on his dream, but he decided to write a script inspired by one of his favorite kids shows growing up, and he put it through our online submission process, and I'm certain he's been pinching himself ever since. We greenlit 39 episodes of this groundbreaking series, and if you're not familiar with the show, it's about a group of friends who live on a street that's anything but normal. The kids are grounded, but there's a magical realism to their world. The first season was really well received by customers and press alike. We received also industry recognition from this in the form of an Emmy nomination, a WGA award, Humanitas Prize, Parents' Choice Awards, and one Hollywood agent referred to it as the West Wing of Kids 6 to 11 programming. In season 2, we pushed the envelope even more, taking more risks, aiming to improve the quality of on-screen talent, and also the animated story bombs that are featured in most of the episodes. Fanula Flanagan actually has a recurring role in the series. We worked with amazing musicians like Andrew Bird and Sharon Van Etten. The Avett brothers are covering one of the last songs for us, which is a personal favorite of mine. But in the last season, with the animated story bombs, we had Bill Plimpton, who I hope you guys will recognize, animate actually one of the segments. And so I'm going to show that for you now.
That's not magnetism. That's gravity.
Nemesis.
This is serious. Things could get out of hand. Gravity is the force exerted by two masses upon one another. The Earth pulls on you, you pull on the Earth. It's just that the Earth has a lot more mass. If you start gaining mass, you're going to start pulling on everything around you. At first, it'll be little things.
That's not so bad.
But the more the mass, the greater the pull.
That's annoying.
And the more you attract, the more mass you'll have, which means even more gravity. You'll start pulling in bigger things.
Like, how big?
That big, and even bigger.
I think that's fungi.
And if it continues, you'll snowball until
Everything works out okay in the end?
until the gravitational force exceeds the nuclear force and you collapse into a singularity. Your irresistible gravity swallows the Earth and the entire solar system. Light itself can't even escape. The laws of physics collapse and you become a black hole.
I need to quit peer counseling.
That series will wrap up this summer, and we feel incredibly lucky that Cartoon Saloon will actually be animating the longest story bomb and really sort of culmination of Gordimer, Drew, and Ranger, Ranger and Mel's journey. So just like Fig and Stinky and Dirty and Gordimer are having impact on our customers by breaking rules, having unique points of view, I encourage you and I challenge you to think about what type of impact you will have on your audience. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions, or do we want to?
We can do questions if you want to.
It's up to you. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm just wondering, from the changeover now from TV to digital, has there been any development or changes that you've noticed in the content or format or anything else or like that?
I think we have a lot more opportunities to create, content. So, when one door closes, another door opens. And with the presence of streaming networks, I think there's even more homes for great content. As I mentioned, these are new brands that we're creating, so we really can take risks on content, not thinking about a long-established brand. My favorite pitches are often very personal. They come from a unique perspective. As creators have lived with them so long, they know very intimately the characters and stories they want to tell that aren't, driven by committee. So I hope there's more opportunity. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but any other questions?
Hi. From Tumble Leaf and Creative Galaxy, we see it's quite educational. So is that part of Amazon's strategy at the minute?
So definitely in our preschool shows there is a curriculum piece. We like to think more about promoting creativity and thinking. We're not looking to do core curriculum, and often when we're in pitches, we tell the creators is think about this from a character and story standpoint. Don't think about it from a curriculum standpoint because you're not the curriculum expert. But we want to make sure that those messages are woven throughout and they feel organic. So we work with specialists in the form of, Adele Doherty, who founded the Maker Faire, or Jessica Leahy, who wrote a best-selling book called The Gift of Failure. It's not your typical curriculum. We're not looking to do core curriculum. I really was looking to supplement the experience of what was being pulled out of schools in favor of teach-to-test philosophies. So hopefully, they're more of the fun subjects at school. Like recess, we know, is something that is very valuable to kids. It helps in their development and growth, and we want to celebrate that, which is, I think, what you see in Tumble Leaf, that Fig and Maple and Hedge are playing. It's very relevant to preschoolers at that stage. It's how they make new discoveries. It's how they look at the world. And so I hope that it's become a mirror for them. And that sort of strategy is carried over to our 6 to 11. You know, even if we're looking at an animated serialized story like Lost in Oz, which is currently in production, those stories are rich, deep, beautiful worlds, but at the helm you have Dorothy, who is a wonderful role model as a protagonist. She takes risks, she's not afraid of failure, she thinks outside of the box. These programs aren't meant to be, you know, a school lesson. These programs are meant to be entertaining, but we hope that the byproduct is that they have great impact.
So for the story bombs in Gordon.
Yes, Laurie Paris, our co-executive producer of Gordon McGivens, who found her way to Ireland somehow.
I'm stalking you. How did you guys find the artists? Because I noticed each one is a very different style.
It is. So each one of them is a very different style. And so in the first season, it became very much an experiment. I think that a lot of the studios and individuals that we worked with, you know, it was probably a means to getting their first, you know, episode produced. Bill Plimpton is obviously Bill Plimpton, and so we stalked him at Comic-Con. And the Cartoon Saloon, you know, opportunity came up because that was one of our most aggressive story bombs. We wanted to really go out with a bang, and what better way to do that than with an award-winning studio? I think does anyone have any other questions? Mark's telling me no. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, so what were the key takeaways for you as students? Like, be passionate, take risks, think outside of the box, and know your audience. I think it will help you.
Thank you very much.